Welcome to this RPGBOT.Masterclass. I'm Randall James, and with me is Ash Eli.
Hello, everybody.
So we're going to be doing a masterclass today where Ash is going to teach me how to, I was about to say play Foundry, how to use Foundry. I've been
Same thing.
using Foundry, and I'm gonna put that in quotes. I've been using Foundry for like 6 months now. I love it. It's great. I ran my first game for Ash in Foundry on the RPGBOT.Podcast this past week, and he walked away. Can I say unimpressed? Is that a polite?
Yes. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's probably the best way to put it. Maybe frustrated and unamused.
Also words, yeah, less kind words, but you know, and he offered very kindly to teach me how to use Foundry better, and we realized, okay, if we're going to do that, we might as well record the whole thing and put it out so that you could consume it. And here you find yourself. And I got to say, like, I am stoked. I'm excited. I feel like I'm at like my first day of high school. Like I'm ready for an education. I got a new notebook and I got like a folio so I could take notes. I got a sharpened pencil. I got pens. I got a martini. Ready to go.
Yeah, because that's what you did in high school, right? Just Randall in the back sipping a martini.
Wait, didn't you?
No.
Yeah.
Anyway, this is also going to be, I think, useful for anybody who's looking to make the switch to Foundry. So some of the stuff we might go over is a little bit basic, just that Randall might already know, but I think it's useful for our audience to know this stuff. So first off, I want to say to people who are out there who are thinking, why should I make the switch to Foundry? What's so great about it? What's so awesome that makes it better than something like Roll20? Well, I'm going to show you. So this is my West Marches game that I'm currently running right now. If you want to join it, the link is in the description. Shameless plug. But let me show you. I've got some things set up on this landing page, and let me show you what the power of Foundry can do. So you see this map here? It's pretty cool, right? What if I double click on it? Ooh, now I'm on a different page, and it's showing me the map. What if I, what is this quest thing? I'm going to double click on this. Ooh, it brings up my quest log. That's pretty cool. What if I double click on this book? Oh, and it's got monster logs, and it's got like a little detailed description of all the different monsters that my party has discovered so far.
Okay, wait, I'm
Wow.
already a little bit mind blown. Like, are all of these things plugins, or are these things that are just basically in Foundry already?
No, these are plugins. I'm just showing what's possible once you fully master Foundry.
Okay, because yeah, I need all of these things in
Yeah.
my weekly game. Okay, I'm excited now. This is
Yeah.
gonna be good.
So that's just a little taste of some stuff that you can do with Foundry. The Foundry is insanely customizable. It allows you to do things that you didn't know you needed before, but that now that you have them, you never want to go back. So before we get into all that fancy stuff, let's talk basics. So first off, the one thing I'm not going to go over here is hosting. There are so many videos out there about hosting a Foundry game, and it's way more complicated than it needs to be. I agree with you. That's a downside of Foundry. That could take like a whole video, and I don't want to talk about it right now.
But we'll pick one or two good examples. We'll stick them in the description. So if you're like, I don't know where to start, at least that'll be somewhere. But like I said, there's a million of them.
Yeah, you can. The short answer is there are two different methods. You can do like personal proxy hosting, I think it's called, where you stream directly from your computer. The downside to this is that when you're not online, your players can't access the game. And the other one is through like hosted networks, which is what I use because I want my players to be able to access their character sheets even when I'm not online. The downside to that is those are usually paid. Like they cost a monthly fee. But if you want, they're also easier to set up than the first method I mentioned. So
if I say the words to you that we need to open up a port in your firewall so that your public-facing IP has a port open for your friends to access, and your eyes roll in the back of your head, you're going to want to use something that's
welcome to Foundry, man. So if you just want the quick and dirty, easy way to do it, I would recommend go to the Forge VTT. They make it super easy to host. It does cost a monthly subscription, but only for the DM, not the players. So if you're willing to pay that and you're just like, I don't want to have to figure out all this technical jargon, just do that. That's what I use. I've had no issues with it. So once you're in Foundry, the first thing you're probably going to want to do is create a scene, which is like a map. So the easiest way to do that, so you'll notice there's all these different symbols up here. To quickly run through them, this is the chat messages. The crossed swords are the encounters. The little thing that looks like a DM screen are the scenes. Then you have actors, which are like player characters, NPCs, that kind of stuff. Items, journals, journal entries, rollable tables, card stacks, playlists, compendium packs, and settings. So we're interested in the scenes. Now, this is a really good way to organize things. You can create a folder, name it. You can even change the color of the folder. So you see I have a folder already here called Molinet that has an orange color to it. But let's say I want to create a scene and I have a map that I have in mind for like an underground cave. So let's create a scene and we'll call it cave.
Solid naming. I love it.
Yeah, solid naming, right? Now, this might seem overwhelming. There's a lot of information here. It doesn't seem the most like user friendly, but let's just break it down. So first off, the main thing the rest of the stuff is just background noise. You don't need to worry about it. The two main ones that you want to look at are background image and, if you have it, a foreground image. So let's say you have like a top of a tree canopy that you want to put in. What that'll do is that when players walk underneath the tree canopy, it will make it disappear. But when they're out of it, it'll show up.
And then, like, similarly, if you built a city, you could have like an open city where, like, oh look, I'm in a building and I'm moving around. But when they move out, let's say the roof of the building pops back up in the foreground image.
Right, exactly. I tend to not use foreground images all that much because they're just too much of a pain to set up. But if you're going for that more immersive experience, foreground images can be useful. So we're only interested in background image. So the way we bring in a background image, you click Browse File, and then Choose File. And mine, you guys might not be able to see this because I'm only sharing the
That's fair.
the window. But
you navigate, you pick a file.
You navigate, you pick a file. Let me just find the one I'm looking for. Hold on. Here it is. Gridless.
I can start making jokes about the names of image files on your machine.
Yeah,
everybody
exactly.
Stick those jokes in on your own. Whatever rating you want.
Just so much porn. No, I'm just kidding. So I've selected the file. Now, if what I want to warn you with a lot of files, especially with like high res images, when you click import file, sometimes something won't appear in this part right here right away. So when you click select file, they'll be like, you have to select a file. You're like, I just did. What that means is that it's still importing. So just give it a second. The biggest annoyance part of this is that it doesn't show you how long it's going to take you to import. You just have to be patient. So once it's done, it usually doesn't take more than, like, I would say a minute or two for the really big files. Like the longest I had to wait was I imported an hour-long audio file, and that took a while. Yeah, once this pops up into this little box here, you're good to go. So click select file. And for this is a map off of Chepeku, and Chepeku has instructions for importing their maps to Foundry. So what you want to do with this is also just a good lesson. You want to go to the grid. Here you can choose, like, do you want hexagonal? Do you want gridless, square? We're going to go with square. And then for Chepeku, they say you want to up the grid size to 140.
Okay.
Basically what that means is that it just increases your square size, so that you're like, if you have a large map, which Chepeku maps tend to be pretty large, if you leave it at 100, it's going to be absolutely massive. So we're just trying to get the settings right, essentially. And you don't need to set the scene dimensions or anything like that like you do in Roll20. We're just good to go. So you click Save Changes.
And it's kind of cool here, like noticing you have the grid color. So let's say you had a really dark map. I'm assuming you could change that black to white. and
Mm-hmm.
actually have white grid lines that pop out against the background.
Yeah, and you can also change the grid style as well. But so you just noticed this thing popped up, change scene dimensions. That's because I changed the grid size to 140. If you're keeping the grid at 100, this won't pop up. But there you
Gotcha.
go.
Makes sense.
Yeah. So now we have the scene. You see it's popped up over here. But how do I access it? So just right click and view scene. And you'll see all of the stuff is here. It might be hard to see the grid, but it's there. If I were to drag out, let's say I drag out Jacques here, you'll see he's locking to the grid. Because unlike with something like Roll20, the grid is very subtle. They want to make it as unobtrusive as possible, but there are ways to make that more obvious if you prefer. The other way that you can access the scene is if we go back to the configure, go to basics, you'll see this thing called show and navigation. I usually set these for GM only, but there are a few things where I'm like, I'm okay if the players are able to navigate to this on their own. So if I click that, you'll notice it's up here. So you can just, I'll go back to landing and then I can go back to cave and I'm good. But just simply viewing it as a dungeon master doesn't activate it for your players. So to do that, you either right click up here or right click in here and click activate. And that will summon all of your players, if I had players, into the scene. I'm going to activate this again. So that's
Can I ask
scene.
you a question about activating maps?
Mm-hmm.
So one of the annoyances I have, go ahead and activate the cave for me right quick.
Sure.
When I first add, hey, let me bring everybody to the map. One, it's that whole like quick fog of war. Do I turn it on? Do I turn it off? So let's hit that in a second. The other thing is I then have to go in one by one, grab my characters, drag them on the map wherever I want them to start. Is there a more clever way to handle that?
Okay, so for Pathfinder 2, now I do want to come out the gate right here. I can only speak to optimizing Foundry for Pathfinder 2. I've never used Foundry for D&D, so there might be some stuff that works across both systems, but I can only speak to Pathfinder 2. Now, when you're running Foundry in Pathfinder 2, there is no way baseline to adjust the fog of war, like to activate it or anything like that. Because the system that is involved in Pathfinder 2 automatically calculates your character's view distance based on their ancestry and stuff like that. So that is not really editable, which is maybe a downside for people. I personally don't mind it because there's very few instances where I have to manually edit a person's like sight distance. It's usually pretty good. So like for instance, Jacques here has I believe low light vision, so he would be able to see in low light because he's a goblin. But the way you do fog of war, so first off, there's only two different modes for fog of war, if you will. There's daylight lighting and nighttime lighting. And so if you want players to not be able to see certain things or see not very far, you want to go to lighting over here, this light bulb, handy, and transition to, where is it? Transition to darkness. And you'll see that my screen will dim here as it slowly moves into darkness. Now, while I can still see, if I were to say, and that's pretty dark, but as a DM, I can give myself GM vision so I can still see perfectly. But if you just want, there's also ways to adjust this, but let's say I bring in Jacques. So if I click on Jacques, hold on, let's turn GM vision off. So you'll see when I click on Jacques, I can now see everything that he sees, and everything is in black and white. So he can still see because he has dark vision, not low light vision. I was wrong. So he has dark vision, so he can still see. But if I bring in, let's see, do I have a human somewhere here? I think Valg won't have dark vision. So yeah, if I click on Valg, you see she can't see anything. So yeah, that's the difference. Now,
and all of this is built into the base Pathfinder game module.
This is base Foundry. Now, let's say, if I click on Jacques, and let's turn GM Vision off again. If I click on Jacques, And I'm like, this is great, but there's these walls here, and I don't want him to be able to see past those walls. So the way you have to do it, and this can be tedious, but this is kind of how every VTT works. There are certain like map creators, or like if you use Dungeon Alchemist, they will do this work for you. You just have to import it in using the instructions that they give you, and it will set up the lighting and stuff for you, so you don't have to worry about that. So that can be a benefit to subscribing to certain Patreons. But if you don't have the luxury of that, then you're gonna have to do this manually. So what you do is you come to this walls here,
Okay.
and you're just going to trace out using Control plus click to add these little nodes. I'm just going to do this one real quick. It's going to be very basic, just so I can show you what this ends up looking like. So that wall is there. You see it disappears when I hit it. So let's go back to Jacques, and you'll see he can't see behind this now.
Oh, perfect. Okay.
So that's the basics of walls. Now, some more advanced tips with walls. There's a lot you can do with walls. So first off, let me bring up the walls again. So let's say I want to put like a door here. So I can make this into a door by clicking on a wall section, bringing up this little dialog box here, and then down at the bottom near door configuration, I just turn it into a door. And then I can choose whether it's closed, open, locked, and I
Okay.
can even put a door sound in there. We'll go with like stone.
Okay. I love
And
the idea of putting the Willem scream so that every time you open or close the door screams at you.
oh yeah, I mean, if you want to, I think if you want to put in your own sounds, there's a way to do that, but I don't know how.
Oh yeah, that's no waste to YouTube video. I do want to tell you,
Yeah,
Ash, when you're clicking the drop down menus in Foundry, it's not
yeah,
showing us the individual
they don't
lines.
come up. I noticed that too.
Okay.
But yeah, so I just made this into a door, so you'll notice.
That's beautiful.
And my players can also interact with that door, but if I want it locked, I can just right click, and now it's locked, so they can't interact. They can't open it anymore.
Nice.
And yeah, so that's doors. You can also turn a section into a window by doing let's see, site restriction. So you can do limited, normal, proximity, or reverse proximity. I don't have time to go through all of these, but essentially they're pretty self-explanatory. Basically,
Except for reverse proximity, but I think we could just move on.
yeah. Well, so proximity and reverse proximity, I'm not sure about, but limited, I believe that's the like environment. That's what you do if you have like a cliff where you want people to see down if they're on top of a cliff, but you don't want people below the cliff to see up.
Okay.
Or that might be reverse proximity. I'm not sure. And then normal is like they can't see through it. Site restriction none. That's if you're making a window. So yeah, and then you can also do the same thing with sound restrictions, light restrictions, movement restrictions, all that stuff.
Cool. Okay.
Oh yeah. Oh, actually, this is how you do cliffs. So you do site restriction. We'll say none, but the wall direction is only left or right. So essentially, or normal, we'll say. So you can see through one side, but you can't see through the other, essentially. But that's more complicated stuff that I don't have time for. We're just doing basics right now.
Cool.
But yeah, that's the basics of how to set up walls and stuff. Also, while we're here, let's talk about other lighting. So even though it's dark in here, I do want there to be some light. So let's there's a little bit of a glow right here with these mushrooms. So we click on this, and this is what I really think is superior about Foundry to Roll20. With Foundry, you put a light down and you can't really adjust it. It's just like this light exists or it doesn't.
With
With
roll
Foundry,
20.
oh, Roll20, that's what I meant. With Roll20. With Foundry, you can, when you're putting a light down, you'll see I click and drag, and I can adjust the radius of how far this light goes.
And it's
Which is
honoring your wall.
Yes, and it's honoring my wall. So you see, it doesn't go through my wall because I don't have light being able to pass through the wall. If this was a window, I could have the light pass through the wall. But yeah, so that's the light, and then I can also double click on it and adjust it. I can give it like a light animation. So let's say, yeah, we'll go with flickering light. And I can adjust the animation speed and the animation intensity. We'll update that, and then let's turn off GM vision so you can kind of see how it's flickering a bit. That's useful for like torches and stuff like that. And I can also change the color. Let's see, where is it? Yeah, light color. So it's normally just colorless, but let's say I want to match these mushrooms, so I'll give it like a light blue sort of color, and now you'll see that it's giving me a blue color. And if I click on Jacques, he can see it too.
Now, is your human still sitting, or sorry, your orc still sitting out there? So let's see what the orc sees.
Sure. All right. So click on the orc, and you'll see she can also see the light, but you see she can't see past where the light is going because she can't see. But Jacques can because he's got dark vision.
But it goes back to that grayscale vision, which is, a cue for the player too to know, like, how far does this light carry? Where do I get into the low light condition?
Exactly. So that's one thing that I think that will trip GMs up, especially if you're coming from Roll20. Fog of War is automatically calculated. It's not something you manually put in like in Roll20. So if you want to hide specific areas of the map from people, you're either going to have to put walls down or you're going to have to use a module. So for instance, my I'm just going to briefly show this map. I don't want to spoil my players, but you'll see I do have manually placed Fog of War here for this hex map.
Gotcha.
And that's a module I had to install because Foundry doesn't let you do that baseline. But yeah, so it just kind of depends. For most, I would say 90% of the things you're going to want to do with lighting, Foundry's got you covered baseline. You don't need to do anything else. It makes it really easy, and just go under the assumption that unless a person's view is obstructed by either their innate vision, like if they don't have dark vision, or obstructed by a wall, they're going to be able to see everything that's in front of them.
And I'm going to break your flow completely. Do me a favor. Can we go to actor? Can we pull up a monster token right quick?
Yeah. I'll bring up the monster my party recently killed, the Olgrim Luren.
And let's bring it up north on the map. That's where we're in the dark vision region.
Okay, you want me to bring it in?
Yeah.
All right, so let's say I put it right here.
Okay,
So
now
it's in
let's
the darkness.
see the view. Yeah.
So
kind of
you'll
showing.
see that. Yeah, you'll see that Jacques can see it just fine, but Valg cannot. The reason why it's got this sort of situation going on here, that means it's hidden. But that doesn't. So again, I'm not seeing exactly what she's seeing. So she wouldn't even see this. She would have to be closer in order to see it. But anytime a creature is hidden, it shows this sort of outline. Now,
what I wanted to show real quick, if you were to right click on that token,
yeah,
if you were doing a map, but you were doing a map where you didn't want to take the time to do walls, you can toggle the visibility state.
Yeah, which would just completely hide it from everybody. So now you see Jacques can't see it, Valg cannot see it.
And so if you don't want to take the time to do walls, putting your monsters on the map ahead of time, but making them all invisible is a good way to at least hide exactly what they're going to run into. Where seeing the map a lot of times isn't going to break anything for the character experience. Knowing exactly where the enemies are might.
So this is actually a good transition into actors. So let's talk about actors. Because they're aside from scenes, they're probably going to be the thing you interact with the most. So you'll see I have a bunch of different actors here, and if you're worried that like with Roll20, oh god, I'm gonna have to make a character sheet for all of these monsters and assign attributes and stuff like that. Well, this is one of the advantages of using Foundry, and specifically with Pathfinder 2. Since all that information is free, you can access all of it through their compendium right here. So let's say I want to bring in a wolf. So This cave feels like a wolf. You just you click on wolf, and then you click import, and now I have a wolf,
I'm
and I
both
can use it.
embarrassed and sad.
You didn't know this, did you?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, isn't that
Okay.
awesome?
So
And you'll
we're
notice
using
when
the
I click it up, it's not a blank character sheet. It gives me everything, literally everything that's in the wolf stat block. The only thing
okay.
it doesn't give me, you'll notice, is a token. So if I were to drag this out, it would just look like this. That doesn't look like a wolf. That looks like an angry Oni. I don't know why that's the default icon. Weird. Anyway, so there are two ways that you can get around this. Most of the time, you're going to have to make your own token. Now, I believe Paizo sells a module for Foundry that gives you default tokens for like a bunch of their monsters. It
That's right.
might
I've
be
seen
out.
that.
It might be out of date by now, but I don't know. It's not cheap, so just be aware of that. But normally, what you're going to do is you're just going to create a token and you're going to import it into here. No, oh, what's this, Ash? Oh, we'll talk about this. Don't you worry. We'll talk about this. Hey, all. Ash here. We did not, in fact, talk about it. But I'm going to put it in at the end of the video, so stick around. But that is a module. Normally, it's just going to ask you to, it's going to pull up a dialog box like this. That will ask you to do something similar with the scene. So you just pull in the token. There's a lot of token makers out there. I'm not going to go into detail. You can find them with a quick Google search. I use Token Tool. It's a desktop application, works really well. You just bring it in, and then it's good to go. And so I'll just bring in the thylacine. So then, yeah, you've got this little token now. Now, when you have to, you do the same thing with party tokens as well. Only they're called. So when you're creating a new token, you can choose player character, NPC, or familiar, and it will organize it based on what you're choosing. But so with character sheets, there's a lot more information, and you'll notice just to go through it: character, actions, inventory, spellcasting, crafting, proficiencies, feats, effects, biography, and Pathfinder Society. I never use this, but for those who are in Pathfinder Society games using Foundry, I don't know of any who are, but that will be a useful page. So yeah, and it works very similar. You just drag and drop. This guy's a Minotaur, so he's a large creature.
Ash,
Yeah.
something that we always get tripped on when we add a new person to a game. So you have a character here, and there is a player for that character, but we do have to associate them. Could you show folks how to associate
Sure, sure.
one of these character sheets with
So,
a player?
Um, if you want to associate, and with something like this West Marches game, you'll notice I have a lot of players. That's because it's a West Marches game. So not all of these players are playing at the same time. That would be a nightmare. So you right click and you click configure ownership. And you'll notice that Slime Mold is the owner of Griprix. So you can click on these drop downs. There's a few different options. There's none, which means that they don't have access to this character. There's limited, which just allows you to see that it exists in the page, but when you bring it up, it just shows you a blank character sheet. You have observer, which allows you to see the character sheet, see everything the character sees, like share their vision, but it doesn't allow you to control it. So something that's useful for that. I have. Let's look at party icon. So my party icon, which I use on the main map to to show players like their vision of the world map, but I don't want them to control it because if they move the token, it will reveal parts of the map. So I have everybody set to observer, which means they'll be able to see the token, they'll be able to see what it sees, but they won't be able to interact with it.
Makes sense.
So yeah, those are the different types of ownership. There's also different statuses. So if we right click again, so first off, you can adjust whether you want to bring them back to back or front. If there's like creatures on top of each other, that's useful. You can toggle target state, which we'll talk about targeting in a second. And then the big one, which is assign status. And you'll notice there's a bunch of different conditions. These are all the conditions in Pathfinder 2. And this is the number one reason why Foundry is vastly superior to Roll20 when it comes specifically to running Pathfinder 2. Tracking conditions in Roll20 is a nightmare. Roll20 has no built-in support for it. You just have to keep track of it. With Foundry, it automatically puts in effects based on certain things. So let's say I'm going prone. Now, you'll notice it also added a secondary condition called off guard. I didn't have to add that. He's prone, which means he's off guard. So that's awesome. And then let's say I want to do like a fist strike. It reminded me to target. That's a module I've set in place. But yeah, you'll notice it has a little modifier here, -2 to prone. I didn't have to calculate that. It does it automatically for me. Which is
a really nice
so
feature.
great. It's so awesome. And it's one of the reasons why I love Found. That's not a module, by the way. That's baseline. You don't have to install anything to get that feature.
And it's worth saying we might see an example later, but in case we don't see an example of it, let's say there's some spell effect that would apply some status effect. Usually it shows up in text, so you can just click that status effect, drag it over to the character that's being impacted, and drop it on them. And then it automatically applies that status effect without you actually having to go into that menu that Ash was just showing. Best example I could give of this is anything that causes persistent damage. It'll pop up the menu. If you do the click and drag method, it'll actually apply the right persistent damage, whether it was fire, whether it was bleed, whatever it might be. If you go and click the button in the menu, of course, it'll let you configure whatever the persistent damage should be.
Right. Yeah. So Randall's right. It does have some limitations. So there are like some effects, like disease effects that certain creatures or poison that creatures do. When they afflict your players, they don't automatically do anything. You just have to keep track of those. But there are modules to fix that, which we'll go over later. So yeah, that's the basics of characters. It's the basics of actors. The other thing I want to talk about is movement. So there are two ways that you can move a character. You can just use the arrow keys to move them one space at a time, which is super useful. That way you don't have to measure. You can also just drag and drop if you want. But if I want to know how far I'm going to do that, now this I've had to explain, so I'm explaining it now so I don't have to repeat myself to my players because this is a little confusing. I get it. So make sure you have your character token selected. Hit Control or Command on Mac, and then click and drag out a line. And you'll notice it shows me exactly how far I'm going to move. But let's say I want to move, like turn a corner and that kind of stuff. So you release the click, but keep holding on to Control. Then click again, and you'll see I have a new waypoint. And I can do this as many times as is necessary. And you'll notice it gives me like how far it gives me the amount of feet from the last node that I placed. But in parentheses, it shows me the total amount that I have measured out. Once I have my waypoints set to where I want, all I have to do, press spacebar. And you'll notice he moves along the path, and there he goes. So that's pretty handy. But yeah, that can be a frustrating feature for people to realize, to know, because usually for people in Roll20, they're used to right clicking and dragging. That doesn't work in here. Right clicking just moves the screen. So yeah, that's movement. That's characters. I think we got that all situated. Now let's talk about encounters, because encounters are the other main thing you'll be interacting with a lot. So I'm gonna switch over to this combat that my players just had. Where was I? So yeah, when you're doing encounters, you want to go over to the encounters, and if you ask for people to roll initiative, they're gonna tell you, hey, I can't roll initiative. Because you don't have an active encounter. So you want to make sure as a DM, before you ask for roll initiative, you go over to the encounter page and click create encounter. That's all you need to do. Now your players can roll initiative. So you'll notice he can roll initiative. So roll. And now he's part of the initiative. Yeah, the other way you can do it is you can just hold all of click and drag, right click, and then click toggle combat state, and you'll see it added everybody to the initiative tracker, and have these little dice that they can roll to roll initiative. Roll. And these dice that are going across the screen, these are not baseline. This is a module. But yeah, so now you've noticed everybody's now in the initiative except for like these two. Screw these two, whatever. So this right here is also a module, but normally it'll just look like this. You'll just have this screen. So you click begin encounter, and now we're in combat. Now, normally it just takes you back to the chat box, and so switching back and forth between this and the chat box is kind of a nightmare. So baseline, if you don't want to have a module like this, you just right click on the encounters and it brings up a little encounter thing, which is great and it's super handy. And then I can, rotate through the different the different turns and stuff like that. This up here, also a module. But yeah, so now that we're in encounters, number one thing I always tell my players and DMs, this will save you so much headache and will make your players happy. Before you attack, before you roll to an attack, hover over the creature that you want to attack and press T on your keyboard. And you'll notice it has these little arrows that are pointing in. That means I've targeted that creature. So now if I come to his character sheet and I do a Jaws attack, you'll notice it shows that I hit. I didn't have to ask, hey, what's your AC? It just automatically tells me if I hit or not, and it will calculate any sort of modifiers or penalties based on what it's being affected by. Matter of fact, this creature was affected by so many debuffs at one point. Like my players had frightened it, they had grappled it, so it was dealing with a lot of penalties. They did a great job. But yeah, so now that that's popped up, I can click damage or critical. If it was a critical, I click critical. Otherwise, I'm clicking damage, and then it rolls the damage for me. And you see I have since I have Gripix selected, it brings up that little this little thing, and I click damage, and he's taken 10 damage. It automatically calculates it for me.
Yeah, so knowing that you can press T to target is awesome. What my party has been doing, if you right click, or I think maybe like double right click or something, it also will do the same.
Does it? I don't think so. Maybe not. I don't know.
Maybe you right click and then click the target. But yeah, the fact that T is a short.
Oh yeah, no, awesome. Yeah. So if you click the target, that's the other way. If you click toggle target state, you can target it.
But T is way better. That's way more convenient.
T is way easier. So the other thing that's cool about this and what makes Pathfinder 2 really helpful, a lot of monsters have resistances or weaknesses. Especially in a game like this, which is very Monster Hunter inspired, I'm playing a lot into that. So it would be a pain in the ass for me to have to do all of that addition every time someone hits. So I don't have to do that. So this creature has resistances to electricity and piercing. So let's see who does piercing damage. I know one of them did. Short sword, I believe, does piercing damage. Yes. Okay, so let's say Stimmer over here targets the creature, and he's going to do a short sword strike.
Still missed.
Difficulties. Yeah, it's a hard creature. Okay, he's rolled 9 again. So you'll see it reduced it to 4 because he has resistance 5 to piercing. So yeah, that's really convenient and easy and helpful. I think that kind of wraps up all of the basics that I wanted to touch on.
Yeah, I think everything you highlighted is awesome. You were talking through the fact that it applies all this for you. Like one very specific thing that I want to call out is that it handles off guard correctly out of the box. It does. So if two players, put a creature off guard, or if two creatures put one of your players off guard, it's automatically going to do the math for you.
Oh yeah, another cool thing about Foundry. Let's say Tirip, who is an ally of Stimmer, is on this side and he's on this side. I'm flanking, right? Does that mean I have to manually put on off guard? Nope, I do not. Foundry will automatically calculate that for you. So we'll roll it again. And you'll see his AC got reduced because he was flanked. So that's really cool. So it found the reason why people love Foundry, especially for Pathfinder 2, is because it automates so many things for you, especially with Pathfinder 2, where there's so much to remember and all these modifiers you have to keep track of. Foundry just does 90% of that work for you, which is fantastic. So that's the basics. The only other thing that I would say, so if you want to end the encounter, you end the encounter like by clicking it. And then this screen, I don't know if this is a module or not, but there's an experience thing that allows you to assign experience to people based on the creature that they killed. I've been using modules since the beginning, so sometimes I'm like, this is a baseline feature. No, it's not. It's a module.
We don't get that menu, but I think when I set up our game, I think I set it up as milestone based, not experience based. So that
Yeah.
could just mean that we're not
Yeah,
getting it because of that.
for most people, the experience thing is whatever. But you can also you can adjust it by coming in here, clicking on this number and adjusting it. I'm using experience for this game because, again, it's a West Marches game, and I can't really do milestone leveling with an inconsistent game. But yeah, so it's kind of up to you. And there's also hero points. So you can award hero points by right-clicking on it. By clicking on it, or remove hero points by right-clicking. Your players will have to keep track of that, but there are also modules that make it easier. But let's say Stimmer missed with this attack, and so he's like, I want to re-roll that. He could just flat out re-roll it, and then go into his character sheet and right-click to take it off. But something that blew Randall's mind the other day is you can also right-click and go to re-roll using a hero point, and it will re-roll it. And there you go. And now we
hit because the creature was off guard.
Correct. So yeah, that's the basics. Now let's get into the fun stuff. Let's talk about some of the modules. So first off, there are 3 modules. I'm going to bring up my module list. You'll see I have a lot here. I'm not using all of them, but I have a lot. So we're gonna break this down. I want to, if you don't care about getting into all of the cool, unique, and customizable things that modules can do for you, and you just want the basics that will make your life easier in Pathfinder 2, there are 3 that I feel are non-negotiable for Pathfinder 2. If you're running a game for strangers, especially if you're running it professionally, if you don't have these involved, you're going to make your players frustrated and you're going to upset them. So these 3 are non-negotiable. So those 3 are PF2E Workbench, PF2E Tool Belt, and PF2E HUD. So let's start with Workbench, because Workbench is probably the most robust one. So if you go to Configure Settings, you'll notice in PF2E Workbench, there's all these different things. We're going to ignore NPC mystification. It basically allows, it's too complicated, but essentially it allows you to prevent players from learning a lot about the creatures they're facing. I don't really care about that. You can go into it if you want to, but I'm only going to focus on the things that I think are useful for everybody. So you can do reminders. So you might have noticed when I rolled earlier where it said, don't forget to target someone before you roll an attack. That's because I have it set up. So you can have like a recharge reminder. So if you have a creature that uses a breath weapon, when it comes off of its recharge, it will pop up a reminder. The other big one that I use a lot is the hero point handler. This is a game changer for me. So when you click on it, it will bring up a hero generator, a hero point tracker. So I have this set to hotkey. So this will pop up. And it gives you an option to do a random hero point, give a hero point to a random person. I don't do that. I usually just do this. So I'm either giving a hero point to everybody or nobody. So you just click add, and then you say how many hero points you want to give. And then you can do submit changes and start and continue timer. And you'll notice over here, it whispered to me that it's going to come back in 60 minutes because in Pathfinder 2, in case you're unaware, players get a hero point once every hour. And then once that hour is over, that window will pop up again and say, hey, it's time to award your players some hero points. Do you want to do that? and then you can or you can't. And if I want to stop the timer, I just submit changes with no timer, and it will stop.
Nice.
So
Okay.
that is such a game changer, and it makes my life so much easier so that my players don't have to remind me all the time, hey, I think it's been an hour. Do we get another hero point? Now they know. They just know that they're going to get a hero point when an hour has passed. You can also set reminders for if you're attacking with a token that's unable to attack, like if you're unconscious or something like that. But yeah, that's reminders. Quality of life settings. This is something that can be useful. I don't use it a lot, but it's mostly just a bunch of different miscellaneous stuff. You can read through it. You can pause the video here and read through it. It explains what it does. The other big one that I use is the world automation settings, another game changer for me. So there's so much here. I don't want to go through all of it because there's a lot, but you can, just to briefly touch on it, you can set it so that when characters go unconscious, like when they are reduced to 0 hit points, it automatically adjusts their initiative to the turn before the creature that made them go unconscious, which is so great. So you don't have to manually do that. It also automatically applies the dying condition when you're brought to 0 through lethal damage. It also you can set it so that it increases the dying value based on how many wounded conditions they have. It will also automatically remove the dying condition when they're healed and add a wounded condition if they are healed and they had a dying condition. It's so good. It's really good. If you don't use anything else in Foundry, use this. It makes things so much easier, and it takes away so much of the accounting for you. You can also have characters automatically drop items when they become unconscious. It's just really, really, really good. And you can also manage house rules. This is experimental. It's not really reliable, but you can use it. The other things, there's so Workbench. I think Workbench also adds a macro here. Let me see if I can bring it up here in the compendium. Basic action macros. This is really useful. So it will automatically put this on the action bar of your players. So if you click on it, you'll see it has all of the actions that I can do. And let's say I want to recall knowledge. And it will give me a breakdown. They just roll one recall knowledge, and it gives me all of their modifiers for all of their skills, and I can see whether it'll tell me their modifier plus the result, and then I can say, you rolled a religion check, the 7, that's not going to cut it, that kind of stuff. And then you can also go to exploration and downtime.
Is there a way here to see the rules on one of these things? So, for instance, if I can't remember how grapple works in PF2.
That it doesn't do for you.
Okay. What happens if you roll grapple here?
So if you roll grapple, it does. It gives you a little rundown of what it does.
You'd have to be willing to risk it, or maybe just tell your GM, like, hey, I'm going to click this button so we can see the rules.
Yeah.
Also, if I roll good, we'll stick with it.
Also, let's say I want to that AC thing is really useful. I want to do that with this thing. So I actually had the Minotaur was trying to grapple this thing. So we'll actually start with the Minotaur. So we'll do this, and then he's gonna target the creature, and then he's gonna roll grapple, and then it should tell me whether I succeed or failed, and I failed.
Cool.
Because so super useful. So that's Workbench. That is just a really useful tool that I highly recommend all DMs to use. Your players may not get as much benefit out of it, but DMs will certainly.
And this is a good example if you go back to the chat menu of, like, you could grab the grappled or the restrained condition and you could drag it onto a creature had they succeeded.
Yeah. If we go back to this, you'll see that it has these highlighted conditions. So you can just click, drag, and now he's grabbed. And there you go. And it also sets up the off guard and the immobilized conditions. Super useful. You'll see these. So if you see these chains here, that means these cannot be removed until their parenting condition is removed. So because he's grabbed, these are related to him being grabbed. So you right click on the condition and it gets rid of all of that. So let's talk about tool belt. Tool belt is another useful one. So you can set up automatic rune progression, so you don't have to think about it anymore. Just when your players will level up, they'll automatically get runes. Super useful. I don't really use that, but you can. Better merchant. So I'm gonna bring up a merchant I made. So this is a merchant that players can interact with. That you'll see that they have like the stock that they can add. So what players can do if they want something, they just click and drag something onto their character sheet, and it automatically deducts the coin from their stash. That's baseline Foundry. But with improved merchant, it allows you to have infinite stock. If you want to just have as much stock as they have, you can get rid of that. You can also do item filters, which just makes searching for items easier, or you can do from browser, which allows you to search items and add it to your merchant's inventory rather than having to go to the compendium and do it manually. So that's nice. That's just a nice quality of life feature. Then there's Droppeth, which allows your players to drop items on the ground if they want to, which Foundry doesn't let you do baseline. Giveth also allows your players to give inventory items to other player-owned actors. So rather than you as the GM having to drag it over to another player's character sheet, they can just click on an item and drag it over to the token that's on the map and give it to the player. You can also have the hero actions if you're using the hero actions variant rule, which is cool. You can hide the damage from players if you don't want players to see how much damage they or another creature is dealing to them. Identify helps with keep track of unidentified items, that kind of stuff. The rolls tracker, if you hate yourself, it tracks how good or bad the rolls are. My players, for some reason, in all of my games, tend to have really bad luck. I don't know what it is about me, but yeah, I don't want to make them feel bad. The other thing, stances. This is really useful for monks. It'll bring up a little action. So let me see. If we go to, yeah, you see it's grayed out now because he already used it. But if he hadn't already used it, you can click on this and it'll automatically activate his stance. Let's go back to configure settings. Better merchant. Merge damages, also very useful for monks. So when they're doing a flurry of blows, you combine the damages before applying resistances. This just allows you, so let's say for this monk again, let's say he's going to fist twice.
Wait,
So he missed.
Count? Okay, good.
Yeah, he missed twice. But let's pretend he hit twice. So we'll do damage. Well, he crit and he crit failed. That's hilarious. So you see this little button right here, merge. So you click merge, and it will immediately merge with the damage above and combine them. And now, when I do damage, it will calculate all of that damage before applying resistances. It doesn't have resistance to bludgeoning, but if it did, it would have done -5, so it would have been 10.
Is that like a monk feature that they get to combine damages across
Yeah,
the deck?
that's what Flurry of Blows does. It allows you to combine the damage before applying resistances. So that's very useful. Your monks will really appreciate that. But yeah, there's some good stuff in here. You can also add use buttons to consumables. So when players, there will be like a little use button next to whatever consumable they're using. When they click it, it will automatically apply whatever effects it has. You don't need to do it. So that's very useful. Last but not least, let's talk about the HUD. So this is a very useful feature. So you notice if you're bringing up Foundry for the first time, you notice there's all these different boxes that you have never seen before. Usually it's just this. So that is the HUD. So let's click on Griprix. So Griprix, if I click on him, you'll notice that it gives me the option to take cover if I want to, and I can do click lesser, standard, or greater cover. It also gives me my temporary hit points, and my hit point total. It's just like a nice little HUD that I can see all of that useful information. It also lets me see and roll my fortitude, reflex, will save, roll perception, stealth, athletics, that kind of stuff. And it shows me my hero points, my dying value, and my wounded value. The other thing it does is there's just another thing for, we have this, but we also can click on skills, and it gives me a list of skills. And what's also useful about this is it will gray out any of the skills that or the actions that I don't have access to because I'm not trained in them. So I can't treat wounds or treat poison because I'm not trained in medicine. Super useful to do. And then if, let's say I want to administer first aid, it will tell me what that does. And it should roll it. Maybe. Oh, okay. It's just weird. Let's try demoralize. No. Okay. It might be just because I'm the DM, but usually if you click on it, it will roll it for you, similar to the other one. There's also an extras where you can rest for the night, aid, earn income, that kind of stuff. If you want to access your character sheet, you can also just click on it here. I just find it easier to double click on the token, and there it is. But if you don't have access to the token, you can also just do that. Yeah, so that's super helpful. You can also, let's go to this cat right here. So as the DM, this is super helpful for me as well, because you'll notice there's these boxes, and your players can customize this as well. You can consider this like an extra action bar, but for the DM, it will auto populate any NPCs with these actions. So you'll see that I have strike, and it gives me the different maps. And then I have like my different spells that I can use. Super useful.
This is awesome.
Yeah. Now baseline for the DM, one setting that I will tell you that you need to do is there's a setting. Hold on. Persistent HUD, I think it is. Yeah. So persistent HUD. So you notice when I clicked off dry pause, his HUD is still here. Normally baseline, what will happen is if you click on it, it'll show up. And if you click off of it, this all will disappear. I like to keep it there because it's just useful because I'm clicking around as a DM a lot, and this just lets me do it. And then the other thing that I would recommend you do is auto set actor on token selection, which lets me just switch whatever actor is active by clicking on them. Normally it's more of a pain. You have to like right click and just add it to baseline, but this way I can just switch around, and you'll notice each time it's switching around. So super useful.
So I'm really looking forward to using this. I'll say like the default mode in PF2 is, let's say I have 3 creatures on the board. I will have a character sheet up for each of them stacked on top, covering half the map. And so I'm like dragging things around, trying to see what the players are doing, where people are moving at the same time that I'm seeing what actions are available to me. It's kind of a pain. This HUD bar is going to be game changing for me because now like the actions are sitting there, they're right in front of me. I know whether somebody is good at something or bad at something, but I can still be situationally aware of what's actually happening on the map.
Yeah. This down here is not part of PF2E HUD. This is a different module that I have, but also useful. It allows me to see at a glance like what their passive perception is and what their AC is. Super helpful. But yeah, there's a lot of things you can do with all of this stuff. And then like Pathfinder 2, remember how I said it autofills NPCs with those little bar things? You can turn that off if you don't want that to happen. Very helpful. And that's those are the three modules that I think are super important for Pathfinder 2. If you don't get anything else for modules, just get those 3. They will change your life and your player's life forever and make things so much useful. So this way, with this, especially with the PF2E HUD, I was complaining with Randall about how I had to pull up my character sheet every time I wanted to roll a check, which gets super annoying after a while because it blocks the majority of the screen. Now I don't have to do that. I can just have my actions right here and click on it, and it will do things for me. Very helpful. So
yeah, it didn't occur to me as a GM that my players were probably equally frustrated that their character sheet was covering half the screen. But yeah,
exactly.
This is going to alleviate that. That's great.
Yeah, it's great.
Hey guys, Future Ash here. I realized I forgot to explain something that the PF2E HUD does that I really love. So you may have noticed when I was hovering over things. First off, let me move this back. There's this line that forms between me and whatever I'm hovering over. That is not a baseline Foundry feature. This is added by PF2E HUD. So you'll notice when I hover over something, it tells me exactly how far away it is, which makes targeting like range attacks really easy. I can see exactly how far I am. The other thing that it does is it tells me the status of whatever creature I'm hovering over at a glance, which is useful because as a player, I don't even know what the exact health of my fellow party members are. That's just how that works. But by hovering over, I can see first off, Jack Molman is perfectly fine. I can see Malachi is perfectly fine. I can see Valg is barely hurt. And that gives me just an indicator of exactly how my party members are doing or how monsters are doing. So if I select Valg and I hover, let's give this guy some health because right now he's dead. So we'll do that. And you'll see at death's door. So I know he's almost dead. So this is also just a really useful feature. I highly recommend it. If you don't interact with anything else with Pathfinder 2e HUD, this I've found has been super appreciated by all my players. So check it out.
Let's talk about some other, I think, useful ones that aren't necessary, but are still useful. So there's PF2E modifiers matter, which you'll notice when I rolled, let's see, where's the flanking one where the players were? Yeah. So you'll notice how this is highlighted green. That's just paying attention to like what modifiers made the difference in this particular attack, which is nice for players like especially my bard player. Really, like he leans into the debuff and buffing stuff, and so this is super helpful to be like, hey, my modifier made the difference. That's really cool. So it's just nice. You don't need to have it, but it's useful to have. The other one that I feel is kind of necessary, but you don't have to have it if you have your own play, is Path Muncher. So most players build their characters through Path Builder. It's kind of the universal. And if they don't, they should, because it's the best tool out there. So rather than have them rebuild it from scratch in Foundry, you can use Path Muncher. You'll notice it pops up here. So you click on Path Muncher, and then it will say, ask for a JSON code. When you're in Path Builder, there's an option to export to JSON. You just have your players give you the 6-digit number and click import, and it will automatically import all of the information from Path Builder into the character sheet. Super helpful. Then the other one, the companion compendia, PF2E companion compendia. This is necessary if you have a summoner or an inventor, someone who has like a familiar or a companion. So actually, I need to set up one of my players as a summoner who has an eidolon named Hyde. So normally, this is a pain in the ass to do. But with companion compendia, I can go to compendiums, and I'm going to search eidolon. Comes up here, and then it gives me an eidolon class. So for him, his eidolon is a plant, I believe. Let me see. Yeah, there it is. So a plant eidolon. I'm going to drag this onto the character sheet. Guardian plant. Okay. Oops. Guardian plant. And he is medium. And for his primary, I think it's this one. I'll have to double check with him, but that's what it is. And so now, you notice it brings in all the modifiers, gives him his armor class, gives him the tendril strike and the attacks, and he's good to go. So that's companion compendia. It just makes your life so much easier. Now you probably noticed that those little like character sheets up at the top when or character icons at the top when we were in combat, that's called carousel combat tracker, and it's just a nice kind of Baldur's Gate way to track initiative. It's not necessary, but it's fun.
It's good advice. Like if you have issues with pace of play, like reminding people when they're up next is one of the best things that you could do. It's like, hey, you're up next. Start thinking about what you're going to do. Something like that carousel tracker at the beginning is a quick hint that like, okay, it's pretty obvious. I'm up next
Yeah.
turn, or I'm up 2 turns from now.
If you want a more explicit thing, Monk's combat details. Monk makes great plugins for Pathfinder especially. So you can have it automatically play a combat playlist. You can show the CR in combat. You can have a combat alert. And then you can pan to combatant when your turn starts to pan to the token you control. So whenever your token or a player's token comes up, it shifts your view to that token. Very helpful. Then you can also have a pop-up when combat starts and a pop-up when your turn is next. It'll just be like, hey, you're next up. So show next up notification. Get ready, you're up next. And then it will say, hey, it's your turn. It also has sounds that play at the beginning of combat and every turn. I hate the sounds. Please disable them. They're awful and loud, and I do not like them. But you can change them if you want to. I just don't really care. But those are nice. I don't think they're necessary, but they're nice. If you have an animist, you really want to get PF2E dailies, which is this little teacup thing that's next to the rest for the night. Let's just rest for the night. So you'll notice that my animist's apparition spells just disappeared. So if you click on this, you pick your primary apparition and your secondary apparition. If you're going to consume rations, you click accept. It's going to take a while. There you go. And it's automatically populated all of my spells, my focus spell as well, right here, store time, because it's my main apparition. And it also gives me all of the skills that are all of the lores that I get from my apparitions. And what I like about it is it highlights the skills that are given to you by those apparitions. So these are temporary skills. They're not ones you have baseline.
And all that's from PF2E dailies.
PF2E dailies.
Nice. Okay.
The other one that I like is extempore effects. So remember how I was talking about earlier how there's like certain disease effects that don't automatically get calculated by the system, or that have an easy way to track them. So let's bring in a centipede, giant centipede.
Could you not?
No, I'm gonna do that. So giant centipedes have a thing called giant centipede venom, which you notice has different stages and stuff like that. So let's say I'm going to attack Jacques here with my mandibles. That's a horrible sound.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, let's say he fails. Normally I just have to keep track of that in my head because there's no condition for centipede venom. But I can create one. So if I right click on this extempore effect, and now you'll see there's an icon that popped up on him that reminds me, hey, he's afflicted by poison. This is super useful also with like diseases that are going to be with your characters long term. You can also set this so that the players can't see that they have this condition, but you can. So
I think half
very
my
helpful.
Contracted lycanthropy like a month ago, and I forgot because I don't have this plugin.
Yeah, exactly. I always forget that players have diseases, and I love using diseases. I don't forget anymore because now I have extempore effects. It makes it easy to track, easy to remind yourself. Now, that being said, it doesn't automate everything for you. It's not like a turn goes by and then poison. You're still going to have to remember to do that. It's just a simple thing that it creates a simple condition to be like, hey, they have this, you should use it. The other thing I forgot to mention about Workbench, going back, is that Randall said about the persistent damage thing. So one of the annoying thing about persistent damage is every time you go past the end of the monster's turn, I forget to do the persistent damage sometimes. With Workbench, it will you can have it set up to where it automatically rolls the persistent damage and automatically rolls a recovery check to see if the persistent damage goes away. Super useful.
Yeah, I think by default it'll roll it, but then you have to remember to apply it, and you have to remember to roll the recovery check. Which when you're trying to move combat quickly, it's pretty easy to miss the fact that popped up in the chat window.
Exactly, it will automatically apply the damage for you, and it will roll the recovery check, which is super. And if they pass, it will automatically remove it. So, nice. Really good.
So those are the useful, not super necessary mods. Then let's talk about some fun stuff, just some extras that I think are just cool. They enhance your experience, but they're not absolutely necessary. So you might have noticed that I've been rolling these physical dice across the screen. Let's see. I'll roll a d20. Yeah, that's Dice So Nice. I have had so many players demand that I have Dice So Nice in my game. People like seeing these rolls, and you can. What's great about Dice So Nice is where is it? Yeah, you can customize your dice. So I have just these blue ones, but you can customize the dice to have whatever you want. You can also bring in custom 3D models if you want to as well. You can have them do special effects. Very fun. It's just a fun little thing. Then there's also Dice Tray. I think this is non-negotiable for me, but I understand if this doesn't matter to people. Baseline Foundry doesn't have this. They don't have these dice. You have to like type in roll 1d20, which is super annoying. Like if you're doing non-skill based stuff. So Dice Tray. You also have these flat checks that you can put up here. So if I'm just doing like a 5 flat check, it'll just roll it and see if I passed or failed. So I succeeded. And there you go. Dice So Nice and Dice Tray. Super helpful. Now, remember at the very beginning where I showed off how I can double click on stuff and bring up certain things?
Yeah.
That is Monk's Active Tile Triggers. So when you download Monk's Active Tile Triggers, it'll bring you this tile control, which if you see I hover over it, it shows you these different tiles. So essentially, if I wanted to add a new tile, I can just place it, and there you go. Now, baseline, if you want to set up something like this, you drag out the tile for the area that you want affected, you double click on it, and then you have to set an image for it. It doesn't matter what the image is, just have to set it, and then set the tile opacity to 0. Otherwise, it'll just show like a white. I'll show you what that looks like. So if I just do it like this, see, this looks ugly. So if you want that to be gone, you have to do that. And then you can go in here and you can set triggers, animations. So for this, I have when a player double clicks, and it allows everybody to do it. When a player double clicks, actions, change scene. And it changes the scene for the triggering player. So it's just simple if then statements, essentially. You can also do this like if a player moves their token onto a space, they automatically transition to another map. So like if you have like a dungeon that's spread over multiple scenes and you don't want to have to manually move players every time they go back and forth between a room, you can just have players, whenever they're moving their token, they themselves are switching to the other map. Or you can also have it set so everybody switches to the next map. So very fun, very useful, really good for immersion and fun stuff like this. I enjoy it. Then there's this thing. This one is paid, but I think it's worth it. It's like you can do this for $25 a year, which is like nothing. So this is called Molinet, and it allows you to, if you're subscribed to any Patreons, it allows you to just bring in certain. It allows you to immediately search what sort of things you have available. Hold on, let me. Okay, save settings. Maybe, yeah, there we go. So these are the things that I'm currently subscribed to and allow me to bring in Molinet. So let's say I like the look of this dark wood thing. We'll go with this. So I can preview it. It shows me what it looks like. And I can also just, import it. And it might take a few minutes, but it will eventually import the scene with all of its lighting set up. There we go. It's done. All the lighting set up for me. Yeah. And then if we go here, and yeah, so there you go. Super easy, helpful.
Nice.
It just popped up. There we go. So yeah. it makes your life easier, like especially if your players are going into go to a place that you weren't expecting, and you're like, oh shoot, I have a map, but it's going to take me forever to just like bring it in and light it and stuff like that. You can just use Molinet to just immediately bring it in. Your players won't even notice that you didn't have a map ready. It's just already ready for you. Super helpful. It also does that with like there are different categories, so you can do actors, adventures, audio, image, item, journal. But the key is you have to be subscribed to certain Patreons. So there are a lot of creators that work with Molinet. As you can see, I'm only subscribed to like maybe one or two, and it's given me 115,000 maps that I can pull from, which is crazy. So yeah, super useful. Highly recommend. Then lastly, one that I like is Status Halo. So let's go back to the beach real quick, or the lake, I should say. So normally when you have these conditions that come up, they'll kind of cover they'll start to cover the side of the token, and eventually a person's entire token gets obscured by these conditions. But you notice here I have it set up so that it goes in a circle around the border of the token. That's Halo tokens. It just allows me to not to just make it look nicer and more organized, so people can still see their pretty tokens.
Yeah, Status Halo seems pretty cool. I like that.
Yeah, Status Halo is great.
So
And that's basically everything. Okay, so this is the point where I'm going to tell you guys about Tokenizer, which I didn't mention to Randall in the video, even though I promised to. So apologies for that. So the way Tokenizer works, it makes creating tokens really easy. So here I have a Goblin Warrior, and I need to set up a token. Now I could do what we did in the video, which is where I bring up this thing and I bring in an already made token. But let's say I don't have a token created, nor do I have the wherewithal to do that. I just want to make something quick and dirty. So you bring this up. This is Tokenizer. And you do that just by clicking on it. You can always bring up the regular screen by shift clicking on something. Now I have this set up in a certain way. I'll go over the settings in a little bit. But the basic essence of it is you have the avatar and then you have the token. So if I want to modify the avatar, I have to make sure modify is clicked. And then I'm going to be copying. I don't want to have to download anything. I just want to copy and paste. So I'm going to set the paste target here. So I have the Goblin Warrior sheet over here. So let's copy this. And then I'm just going to Control V, and you'll see it copies there. I'm going to delete that, and that's my avatar setup. Now for this, all I have to do, paste target, and there you go. Now I have this set up to where it creates a dynamic token for me, but I'm going to go over basics real quick. So usually the default is it's going to automatically give you one of these frames. So you can click Add Frame, and it just gives you that frame with like a basic background, especially because this has a see-through background. So, and if that's all you need to do, that's it. If that's all you want from it, you just copy it into here. You have this nice border, and you can pull it in, and you're good to go. Now, with dynamic tokens, which is what I like about this, you might see if you were to download the official module from Pathfinder 2, you might notice that, oh, his sword kind of pops out of the frame a little bit, and that's really cool. How can I replicate that? Very easily. So let's go to Configure Settings for Tokenizer. So the things you want to do with Tokenizer is so add a mask to the token when opened. Have this checked, and that's what this circular layer is. It's adding a default mask, which all that means is it's telling the Tokenizer what to hide. So if I move this down a layer, it works like Photoshop. You can see it hides his sword. But I'm going to bring this up. And the other thing you want to set is auto apply dynamic token ring. Make sure that's clicked. You can I also get rid of the frame option, add a frame to the token when opened. So that's on by default. So if you were to bring it up, it would automatically add that frame that I was talking about. So if you want to do what I'm about to do and have dynamic tokens, you want those two options enabled. So let's go back here. So to set up a dynamic token, let's bring this down below the masking layer, and then we're going to duplicate it. Oop, that's the wrong one. Duplicate it. And so I am now going to create a custom mask using everything, revealing everything that I want to pop out of the frame. So what you do is you go to Advanced Mask and then Edit. And it's going to bring up this window. And then you can use the scroll wheel to up the brush size. So I just want his sword to pop out. That's kind of it. Everything else I'm fine with. Then you click Apply. And then you want to set this as toggle layer 0. And you'll see his feet are cut off, but the sword is now popping out of the frame. Then you just click Apply. You wait a second as it thinks. And there we go. Its avatar's there. So let's go to the abandoned laboratory that I showed you guys with the measurement. And then let's bring in the goblin. And if everything worked, it should, you'll notice, see how his little sword is coming out of the frame? And it automatically created a background and a frame for you, so you don't even have to think about it. And so that's how I was able to make these guys kind of pop out of their frames a little bit. So that's super fun and cool, and I really enjoy that feature. Now, sometimes it doesn't work right away, so sometimes you might drag it in and it just has the image and no token, anything like that, which is kind of frustrating. Dynamic tokens are kind of buggy, so if that happens, don't worry, just delete the NPC, import it back in, go through the process of copying and pasting again, and then it should work. So sometimes you might just have to do the process over again. But yeah, that's Tokenizer. If you don't do anything else, you can keep the default settings on and just use that, drag and drop whatever image you're using, and it automatically creates a token for you. Super quick, super easy. You don't have to use any sort of downloaded software or take 5 minutes to like Photoshop something. It just does it for you. So this I would categorize as not necessary, but a huge quality of life increase.
I have one more question. So when we came to this map, you actually had some cool music playing. I had to turn it off because I think it was messing with your audio. But could you show people like how to handle sound and audio effects?
So one of the things, so Molinet, again, automated this for me. So this is an animated map from one of the creators I subscribe to called RPG Scenery. They're pretty good. Check them out. You'll notice that it has some sort of sound. If we go to, it might be too quiet, but if I go to like, let's say this grassland, which has this, much more obvious. So if you come to the playlist section and you don't like that, you can just mute the environment like so. I also have a module installed that allows me so that I can adjust it. That doesn't adjust it for everybody. It only adjusts it for you. So if you really don't like that sound, you can come, let's see, where is it? I know I have it somewhere. Huh.
Are those geese?
Geese, maybe. We'll go with the base camp then. So if you right click on this, you'll notice there's an ambience thing here, and I can set the background noise for everybody if I wanted to. But that's a module. That's not baseline. But let's say let's go back to our cave example. Let's say I want to put some environmental sound. So I'm going to click and drag this sound over here. And we'll say I have a sound. Let's go with campfire, maybe. Hold on. Oh, the forge assets. That's what it is. Campfire. Yeah, campfire in the woods. Select file. Create ambient sound. So what this will do is, so my players over here, they can't hear anything, but as soon as they come in, I'm the GM, so I have to be able to preview it. You'll see that they can hear it currently with GMs, the only way that you can hear it is if you have that preview selected and your cursor is over the area. If I move my cursor out of it, you can't hear it. So in, out, and that will work for your players with their tokens. So that sounds in a nutshell. You can also come over here and just have playlists that you have. So let's just manually play Campfire. So now players will hear it regardless, and you can have different sounds set to different modes, either music, environment, or interface, and adjust the volume accordingly. If you adjust the volume here, it'll adjust it for everybody. If you adjust it up here, it just adjusts it for you.
Yeah, and I think this is really nice because like I have some players who, if you have all the noise going on, then they can't actually understand what folks are saying. Like it's hard to concentrate and listen to people, and so they'll turn everything completely to the bottom for themselves. They just don't like it. Everybody else really likes it. So having the user-based controls is super nice in Foundry.
Yeah, I usually use Kenku for my soundscapes, but I sometimes use Foundry because I like the sort of spot based sound effects where like there's a certain sound effect that plays when you're close to something, and as they go further away from the origin of that sound, it becomes quieter, which is very cool. So yeah, that's Foundry in a nutshell. There's so much more we could go over, but this is just a brief overview. I hope this helped people, and I hope this helped explain why people like Foundry so much, because it's endlessly customizable. It automates so much, especially when it comes to Pathfinder 2. I can't play Pathfinder 2 in Roll20 anymore. I'm still running a game temporarily in Roll20, and it's a goddamn nightmare. So if you're running Pathfinder 2, for the love of God, please switch to Foundry. You don't want to do it in Roll20. With D&D, I think you can make an argument that Roll20 is still fine. Especially with Beyond 20, you can integrate D&D Beyond into that pretty easily, but you can also integrate it into Foundry. I'm just saying, it's a good system. I mean, the one positive I would say Roll20 has over Foundry when it comes to D&D is that they have a direct partnership with D&D, where Foundry does not. So yeah. But Paizo makes a lot of modules. Paizo does kind of have a partnership with Foundry, so they make a lot of modules for Foundry. Like a lot of their adventures are modules. I'm currently running Season of Ghosts, which does use which they did release a module for. There's also the Kingmaker module. I hope that they release it for all of their adventures, because like I would love a Strength of Thousands module. They just don't have one. But yeah, if anybody has any questions, you can at me on Blue Sky or at me in the Discord. Or if I said something wrong, you can feel free to yell at me as well.
And yeah,
but that's fine.
Like and subscribe, all that stuff. Hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for making it to the end.
I'm going to link all of the modules that I mentioned in the description. So if any of those seem appealing to you, check them out. There's also other creators on YouTube that go into more detail about some of them, especially Workbench and Toolbench, that probably did it better than me, because some things just didn't work for me. I don't know why, but of course it doesn't work when I need it to. But yeah, thanks everybody, and have a great day.